Okay guys, so I have a pretty high-end editing workstation gaming rig for you today. So the parts going into this are going to be one of these I should say. I have two of them. This is an Intel Xeon 2690 V3, 12 core, 24 thread, 30 megabyte of cache. What are they? 2.6 base. I can turbo them to 3.5. Brand new. I think they cost about 2,500. They started off as $2,000. Getting one second hand, you can get them for 1,200 maybe. Not too bad. 32 gigs of DDR4 ECC. These are just 4 8-gig sticks. Pretty decent RAM, made by Samsung. To buy this now, it's ECC as well. It's a little bit more expensive than normal RAM. But 32 gigs, like here, you'd be talking close to 350, maybe 350 quid. I have an ASRock X99 Fatality board. There. Pretty high-end motherboard. Actually, I think it is the most high-end X99 board you can get, or at least it was when it came out. I know at one stage it was the highest end. Most of the X99 boards can only hold up to 64 gigs of DDR4. This can hold 128. So we're really not giving it a challenge with our 32. This is all going into the Game Max Carbon, which I just reviewed. You will probably see that on the channel. We have an RX 480. I know it's not major. It's not really super for a system like this. I could go a lot higher, and realistically, I probably should be going NVIDIA, but that's all I had. I didn't have an NVIDIA card. But I mean, it's gonna work. It's gonna work perfectly fine. And realistically, these CPUs have enough performance in them that, you know, we're not going to really need to use the graphics card for anything. 12 cores, 24 threads. I mean, it's not too bad, especially if I manage to get it just to not overclock, but constantly run a turbo. So it kind of runs at 3.5, and it's going to be a pretty hectic system. I'm almost sad I have to sell it. And then I have a 160 gig Intel SSD. I was considering maybe using it. I'm not sure where I put it. I put it in the box. I have a 200 gig Intel SSD as well, and it's silver. I painted this one, but I forgot it has a sticker on it and it doesn't look as nice. So I'm gonna go with the red one. It's only 40 gigs in the difference as well, so it doesn't really matter. I have a Hyper 212 LED Turbo, basically just a Hyper 212 Evo with 2 LED fans and a cover over the heat pipe at the top. But it does look pretty good. I'll actually take this out of the box, considering it's right there. And it's also, it doesn't have plastic or anything on it. So open it up, pull this out. All your mounting equipment is in here. And if we just pull this out, there we go. So you can see 2 120mm fans. These are red LED. And you have to see the cover up the top. And then there. Copper heat pipes. You have 4 copper heat pipes. And the stock 212 Evo is probably one of the most used, if not better, air coolers on the market, especially for the price. That is 2 fans. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure this will be able to handle I keep saying 2 because there's 2 on the desk. It should be able to handle a Xeon, no real problem. And then I have an AeroCool Integrator Mod XT. It's a 750 watt semi-modular power supply. I've unboxed one of these before on the channel, I believe. I know I've done the 600 watt, but I kind of unintentionally went for this just because it was 750 watts, which I thought was a nice number for a build like this. And also, because this build is high end, I wanted to go at least semi-modular. And then I remember the last one I used actually had red ports on it. bit of a manual there. You have your bag of cables, and you can see there's red connections there. So unintentionally, I managed to match even the power supply with our colour scheme. There you go. Now you can see that red connection. There's not many connectors here, but that's because the 8-pin and the 6+2 pins and the 24 pin are already connected, so you don't need that many. But this is also going to cut down on the amount of random Molex we have sitting behind the or sitting in the power supply shroud. I think, oh, there we go. I have fans that I'm putting into this case as well. It already has a white LED in the back. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to replace it with this. This is an ID cooling, or I believe that's I forget if that's deep cool or not. But it's ID cooling. I believe it's red LED. The LEDs are in the middle. It's meant for static pressure, but I mean it's going to work fine for the outside of the case. And also I just thought it would look nicer. And then I also have these for the inside, or for the front of the case, not the inside, because they are going on the inside anyway. So these are like ring vans. So basically this band here lights up red, except for this bit here, which I don't know why, it's kind of irritating. And I'm also drinking a premium German wheat beer. I'm quite a fan. I'm normally a stout drinker, but this is quite nice. So, let's get into this build. So the first step here is to prep the motherboard. So I think first I'm going to install the CPU just to get that out of the way. So X99 of course has to be confusing, and use two levers. And you never really know which one you're supposed to use first. There we go. Now trying to figure out which way to put this in. Now I'm actually going to install the CPU because of course my cameraman, or my father, had to check 25 ways from Sunday if this was the right way to go in, despite me saying multiple times it clearly is. There we go. This goes down, and then I believe, yeah, there we go, that goes down. You lock that, and then you lock this side, I'm guessing. It does take a nice amount of force, but that's that on. That was pretty quick and painless. It's kind of hard to believe that I'm now using what is essentially a €2,000 CPU, considering I normally build systems that are a quarter of that price. So now I'm going to install the RAM, because I don't want to have to get it under that CPU cooler. So our RAM is going into the black slots, is what I've learned from looking the manual up online. That is, if my RAM wants to actually go in, because currently it does not. There we go. That one's in. Goes that way. It feels like these RAM slots are like maybe a mil shorter than normal ones, because they're not, RAM sticks aren't going in as easily as most of the other boards I've used. That's definitely in anyway. Now, that CPU, I'm going to clean that off just a little bit. Where are my white spirits gone? Okay, so I have the CPU cleaned off, just with a bit of white spirits on it. And now we also have a, oh that's cool, a splitter for a CPU fan. Instead of, oh, just in case your motherboard doesn't have two CPU fan headers, it's very smart. Now, this system seems to be ever so slightly different than the last time I used one of these motherboards, or one of these coolers. Excuse me, I have terrible hiccups. Now, for AMD, not that much. Just going to empty all this out because otherwise it's going to be just irritating. Trying to filter through a box. Find out exactly which parts are meant for what by using this manual. Just save myself time rather than doing trial and error on all these tiny little screws. So I have the parts for the actual cooler installed onto the block, and now I'm going to put on the little standoffs that go on the motherboard. So just these little ones. And now I'm going to take my Arctic NX2. I think I used all my Arctic NX4. Our CPU is clean. I'm going to just put a little line of it down the middle. There we go. I'm hoping I get some Verge comments on this video now. Like that would make my day. It's become my favourite meme actually. I'm going to need to undo this cable first because it's wrapped around this bit. Okay, so now to actually install the cooler, so we're going to take off this little plastic piece that keeps the block from being contaminated with your grubby finger oils. And then of course we're going to have to take off these fans first, now that I literally just realised. That's easy, I'll do that on camera. Just swap this around to the flathead. There's that. There's that. And this fan just comes off. There's this. That did not work. It's easier this way because I am right-handed. There we go, there's that one. Take that one. And then that one comes off. Now I'm going to put the Cooler Master logo facing upwards, like so. Just going to place it down onto the CPU. No, you do not. Of course, do you not line up like that? You should. Or maybe it does actually go with the fans going up and down, which is a bit of a pain in the arse, but I mean, I can get it to work. Well, I had to move these screws to the outside places on the arms, and then I realised when I took that off that Xeons have pretty big heat spreaders, and also on the X99 boards the CPUs are quite big, and it doesn't really cover much. So even when I screw that down, I want there to be a tad bit more coverage on the thermal compound, just so I can pull all the heat away, because I'm trying to run this at the constant turbo speed. So I want as much heat transfer as possible. No, I'm not going to do no crisscross pattern or anything, but just a tad bit more up here. Like that much should be enough. Just so that spreads out a tiny bit more. And now that also means I can have my Cooler Master logo facing upwards as well. Just like so. Now, really annoying, also kind of terrifying. Oh, that's really tiring around. Wow. Okay, now the fans can go back on. I want these to go. What do I want them to do? Right, this fan goes on first, and this fan goes on second, like so. Now, that's the fans on, facing the right way. Perfect. Now I can just. There are two CPU fans. I don't actually need that splitter because that's going to just introduce more cable length. At least now I can kind of just route these around the cooler. So, move you back here. Not going to reach all the way around, I don't think. Maybe if I go around the heat pipes alone. So just to recap what we did here, let me pull this off first, because otherwise I'll forget. So we have our E5 2690 V3 12-core 24-thread CPU installed. We have our 32 gigs of ECC DDR4 installed. We have our Cooler Master Hyper 212 LED Turbo installed. That's all well and good. That's connected up. I did have to use the splitter in the end because the CPU fan tube is a 3-pin, not a 4-pin, and also now at least both fans are going to be spinning at the same speed. So now turn this around so you can see the I/O. We have the dual NICs, we have the Intel Gigabit Ethernet, and then we have the ASRock's branded Killer E2200. One of these would be for average processing, the other one would kick in when you're gaming. So if you're installing something in the background and gaming at the same time, basically this one says I'll take over process and this one says move over, it's time to play games. So this one you'd hook up your fast internet and maybe that would just be secondary basically. So we have a PS2 port again for all you old school gamers who like your lag free inputs. We have USB 2, 2 USB 3, was an eSATA, 4 USB 3, and then I forgot about this, but this board also comes with a pretty high-end audio system on it. It's the kind of thing you get on all these high-end motherboards, and I forgot about this. So the more I build this, the more I want to keep this system. It's very rare I actually intend to keep a system, but I've never owned a system this high-end in my life. And also I think it's going to look quite cool. But I can always get another X99 motherboard. Although not for the price I got this one for. I can always use my second E5 CPU or E5 2690 V3. Xeons are so annoyingly long with the names. Anyway, oh, and also with the SATA, this just popped. The SATA is quite odd as well. So right, so it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 3, 1, 4, 2, 5. Now, I don't know, maybe people in ASRock don't know how to count, but basically what I'm going to use is the SSD is going to go on 0, hard drive 1 is going to go on 1, and hard drive 2 is going to go on 2, and then 3 is going to be spare, and then the rest, I believe, are controlled by the onboard SATA chip as opposed to the CPU. I have no findings whatsoever to support that, but that makes sense in my head, and if it's wrong I can just change it. Basically that's really it for the motherboard prepping. It's also heavy. It's also kind of so heavy that it's almost uncomfortable. I'm going to move on to prepping the case and getting the system built. I'm looking forward to getting this all done. Okay, so now we're moving on to doing everything with the case. I've also moved on to my second bottle of beer. My cameraman is on his fourth, so he's kind of a danger to society currently, because he will probably start singing any minute now. But think it should be alright. He's never spoken in a video before. I think the most I've ever heard from behind the camera was a laugh when the cat ran across the fence. I recorded my unboxing of the Zalman H1 outside in the back garden, and halfway through my eldest cat ran past the top of my head, and for some reason we thought that was hilarious. I'll take that plastic off at the end. I'll take off the rear side panel now just for the sake of, it'll be handier like this. Throw that in the box. Okay, so first of all, audio is always down at the bottom. Does our motherboard have that down the bottom? My beard's hitting my ear, that's really irritating. No, we don't. That's okay. Oh, that's heavy. Right, so it goes up like this. Every now and then you get one of those oceans, it just doesn't want to go with you. There we go, got that one. Now, first before we do anything, I'm going to remove this fan because getting everything in without it is going to be a tad bit easier. And also I am removing it anyway. That was not necessary whatsoever, but thank you. And if you're new to the channel, that is quite literally the only thing you will ever hear from my cameraman. The fact that he's a raging alcoholic. There's that fan. These are pretty good fans as well, so I think that'll look nice. I'm going to put this in the back of my fabric system. Okay, so now we are going to, I think, lie this down. No, we're going to need to put in new standoffs. That is correct. Here. Spacing, so here. It's a shame these aren't the same size as like a big first screwdriver, because it'd be so much easier if I could just use my Allen for my center. So I actually couldn't route this around the back. It was putting too much space in between the motherboard and the motherboard tray, and the I/O wasn't lining up, and also it was covering the hole for the standoff anyway, so it doesn't really matter, because if you see, the 8-pin is actually closer to the right hand side of the board, so I can just pop it out there and it's not really going to look any different, so it's not the end of the world. I'll just leave you there. And now I'm going to just screw in our motherboard. Stay. I can't really push this anywhere without the case moving, and it's really annoying me. Right, I'll start off with anyone, just one down here, for the sake of, at least now, instead of the entire motherboard moving, I have a pivot point. Fall out onto the motherboard, I'll get rid of them. So I have to remove those thumb screws to get the motherboard in. And now, I believe, yeah, all of this lines up. Try and get a screwdriver down to this one. Never mind, it won't fit. I guess I just have to go for this one instead. These soft boxes, they're like 120 watt light bulbs, but gee, I feel like I'm getting a suntan. This room is so warm, especially because we're in a tiny room as well. those two top standoffs just do not want to line up whatsoever. Doesn't matter how hard I try. The rest are lining up, but those aren't. The holes are actually physically further that way as well, so that's really strange. I'm after just about having a panic attack because I thought that cooler was sitting too high. I actually didn't think it fit, but it turns out that it quite literally does not have any room to spare. I'm gonna guess that's about 3 mil. There's about a 3 mil gap in between the top of that cooler and the side panel. So, I mean, you're definitely going to be able to see the Cooler Master logo. I guess that's a good thing. This will be the death of me. I guarantee it. Well, that looks like the box for a CIT SO12B. That's a very small Micro ATX computer case. But it's not. That is filled with about 20 hard drives, 500 gigs, 1 terabyte. Most of them are Dell Constellations. Some of them are, I think I have a Samsung one in there, or I probably have a Seagate in there somewhere. Although Dell Constellations are actually just Seagate Barracudas, I believe, just rebranded. Go there. Oh, that's heavy. Oh, that's uncomfortably heavy. Now, most of these are actually straight out of a server basically, and they still have the caddies and the SAS converters on them. So, which ones are 1 terabytes? You can see it there. So, I mean, you can see it just there. 1 terabyte, 7200 RPM. There's one. I'm guessing this one is one too. No, 500 gig. What are you? Now that I think about it, it's going to be these ones here. That is a 1 terabyte, 7200 RPM. Bingo. If anyone can't afford a gym membership, you can come here and just lift that up and down. You'll have guns huge by the next week. Now, these are still in their caddies, so I'm actually going to have to remove these. I'll do that after I have the power supply installed. I'll actually do that off camera, because otherwise we'll be here for half an hour. Those screws are incredibly annoying, and I'm going to spend about 20 minutes finding the right bit on my screwdriver too. So now we're going to do hard drive and power supply. Hard drives and power supply, I should say. So I'm going to just take our caddies. I love this system. It's so much handier. And now these are just tubeless. So right down there. So this will work. There we go. Yeah, there's that one. There we go, hard drives. And power supply, I think I'm going to put the cables I need in on it first, just so I'm not reaching it from the net, it'll be easier. Right, so I have the 6 plus 2, 2 6 plus 2, and our 8 pin and our 24 pin. And so I'm going to need 2 sets of SATA. Actually for once I'm going to do this where I don't need any mullets. No, I don't need any mullets, I'm only fans that are mullet for you. So I'm going to take 2 SATA. I'm going to need 1 mullet SATA. So this one is only SATA work out SSD, and this one is 2 mullets, 1 SATA. This one is 2 SATA mullets, that's right. 2 SATA mullets. Right, so these are easy to use, we can 2 cables really young. I also make my cable lines running slightly easier. That's all its peripherals. There, and there. I would record this bit, but putting in the front I/O, it's essentially just my hand in the way constantly. And I'm going to just be swapping the chassis around anyway, so there's not really going to be much to look at. So I'll come back once I have that done, and then we'll worry about getting the SSD and whatnot in. Okay, so I have my front panel connections, USB and whatnot, all put in. And now I'm going to worry about fans, just to get those out of the way so I don't forget them later on, because most cases come with fans, and well, if I leave it to the last thing, I just know my brain is going to completely put it out of memory. So these are the fans I'm using. They're from Easy DIY, and basically they're like the Thermaltake ring fans, except the ring is in the middle as opposed to being on the edge. They should look pretty nice in this system. 2 of these are going in the front, and then I have an ID cooling fan going in the back, just because it was nicer than the white LED fan, the one that we had. So bring this forwards. Quickly to pull this front panel off. That's nice how easily that comes off, actually. Move this just so you can see that. Put that up there, it'll be easier. Now, so these 2 fans are going to go in the front. I could put them here, but that doesn't leave a lot of room for air to come in, so I'm going to put them on the inside, which probably isn't ideal, but it should do. Okay, well then there's those 2 front fans in. I put 2 more screws in each corner. And now I can finally put this front panel back on. Make sure I'm not catching a cable. Oh, we're all good. And then now we're good there. Now I can move this around. So the back is here. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. Now, there we go. There's the rear fan installed, if you want to call it that. Screw it in, more like. Right, so now we have to try and figure out where on earth this is going to go. So for anyone wondering, I've now moved on to an O'Shea's Irish Stout. I'm a big stout man myself. I drink Guinness. If I'm out anywhere, I'll drink Guinness, as long as I'm not in Spain, because it's not the greatest there. But yeah, so the fans are screwed on, connected. I decided I'd run them all on 3-pin because oh no, sorry. One of the front ones is actually running on 4-pin because it wouldn't work up here. The USB 3 was blocking the 4th pin that overhangs the socket from actually going in. So one of the front fans is running off 4-pin, one of them is 3-pin. Top one, the rear fan is actually in CPU fan 2. So as the cooler, or as the CPU gets hotter, air is going to come in, go out, and then as it gets hotter, this is going to start pulling more air out with it. So instead of it just running idly at one speed and ramping up every now and then, it's going to go with how much air is coming from the cooler. Because I mean, that's basically all the air it's going to get. The graphics card is a blower style, so that exhausts its own air. So I mean, it didn't really work out too bad. Anyway, now let me think. I think now I can install my SSD. So here's my SSD, 160 gig. I actually think I have Windows installed in this already from my personal system, but it's okay because I can use this now for a couple of days while it's selling, and then do a fresh install once it's sold. Yeah. 2 screws for that. I mean, it's an SSD, it has no moving parts, it's not really going to move whatsoever. It should be alright. So now that just kind of clips on there, slides back to lock it down because it won't move, and then we take our thumb screw. There we go, now that's our SSD on, everything's looking nice and red. Put on first. That means now we go up to there. This one just has to go like so. And you press in. There we go. Then you can take it there. And from there we can work this one. We can probably have to take these, put loops over, right here. So there are side connections right there, actually, I can see. So our SSD, where's it going? That's only 0, just on the top here. So here, we go into first, we go easier, we go under connection. And then we're going to go first. It just has to go in the one after the SSD. Well, actually, it doesn't, it's only SSD first, but for the sake of trying this and what people say it's right, we'll do this. You know what? There we go. Just see something we can come in. Just get over here. Go around this, use your cable. Just like full connection. There we go. And these can be pulled across. Pull up these. They'll find down. Here. Of course, I can worry about this thing over here for the PCH last. Going to be these two. One. There's two. Why do you insist on taking so much force before it's probably gone? No. That's a screw for the cover. So, cable management is done. I would show you the, actually I can show you the back. I forgot I didn't put the panel on, so let me just unplug this. Show you the back. I mean, it's not the cleanest thing in the world, but it is actually very clean. It's just the fact that these really small cables look incredibly filthy all the time because they go everywhere. But for the most part, it is pretty clean. I mean, everything kind of follows its own line. I'm quite happy with that. I like how this turned out. That's the cleanest I've ever done hard drive cable management ever. Normally it's all over the place, like the spaghetti junction or something. But no. So let me just spin this around, and I'm in love with that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a huge car nut. Actually, I don't know if I said that in this video or in the review of the case, but I said it in one of them. Swap between them, and you'll be alright. Yeah, so I'm a huge car nut. I love cars. Big into like kind of modifying and building your own. So like a carbon hood or whatever. That's really cool to me. And that's honestly what sold me on the case. I saw that and I was like, it should be red, but you know, carbon will do. Right, I'll plug you in. Turn the power supply on. And Press the button. It's running through all the codes now. It seems to have gotten caught on D7. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's caught on D7, which I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to look it up. That's not very good. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up online. I'm going to look up a manual online and find out what the code D7 means. And then if I can fix it, I'll fix it. Otherwise, I'm kind of terrified. But I mean, it looks gorgeous. I'm really happy with it. Do the fans show? They do just about show through there, so I'm quite happy with that. Especially once all the panels are on, it'll get a little bit darker in there. But first off, I'm going to look up online what on earth that code means. Okay, so the system is completely built. It's running currently. I mean, I have no screen set up, and I'm getting code 99, which is a problem with the PCI device, but I'm willing to put money on the fact that there's no screen connected, so it's not getting a HDMI signal back. Because I remember I built a system with a friend before, and he got a 99 on an X99 motherboard, and that was the problem. You know, he didn't have a screen set up. I'm not too worried about that. And even if it is a graphics card issue, I mean, I can fix that probably. The system is absolutely gorgeous though. Like we genuinely spent 10 minutes before we started recording this bit just looking at it and kind of more or less marveling in its beauty. Cable management wasn't fantastic realistically. I mean, if you look up there, the cable management isn't spectacular. But with the case that we had and the fact that it still looks gorgeous, I mean, I'm more than happy with it. If it was water cooled and the case was a little bit better, better is a bad word to use. If there were slightly more features with the case, as in like a top mount radiator and stuff like that, I'd probably keep it. I mean, I can make $2,000 off this. Realistically, the CPU alone is worth $2,000, considering it's been used for most likely 20 minutes. In total, I can probably sell it for about $2,000, if not more. I'm probably gonna put it up for 1,900, and I'll take maybe 1,700. It's just a matter of finding the right person. We're having technical difficulties while we try and get the perfect shot. Are you happy now? There we go. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very nice system. I was a bit skeptical about using, oh, here we go, a bit of movement. A bit skeptical about using the red SSD. I thought maybe it'd be too much. But this all kind of pulls away from the motherboard. The motherboard isn't as red as it did seem before, as stupid as that sounds. So this kind of stands out more than it did before. I thought it'd be too much. Now it's by itself, and it's, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I'm really happy with this system. Very sad to see it go, actually. I mean, I'll take 5 of them, please. Right, let's get a screen set up, and then I can finally play some games, because I sold my Ryzen 5. Okay, so I am going to put the side panel on, and of course the best part is removing the plastic. It honestly just sounds like 10,000 bats screaming at once. Some people get a kick out of that. I say those people need a mental hospital. Now, careful to not put any fingerprints on it. I'll leave you there. Where are my screws? Where are my screws? I hope you can hear the audio of you drinking from a bottle in the background. I think in editing I'm going to rewind to the part where I call you a raging alcoholic and just play that over like 5 times. Just to reinforce the fact. I'm very happy. That looks really nice. Well, with everything together, you know, it's one solid thing. There's no holes, so you can see the back. Now it's all black, which means the red stands out more. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm delighted with this.